Welcome back to Gothtober 2021. We're playing through the letter. We're more than halfway in.
You have certainly exceeded expectations, Marianne. Everything looks so marvelous, and in such a short time, too.
The moments like these make all the hard work worth it. Definitely.
Well, I can't take all of the credit. People have certainly been enthusiastic about the idea of working on the Wright mansion. There won't be any more problems unless Mr. Wright has any more objections about the second bedroom.
Oh, no. We proceed with that room as planned. I already agreed to him having his greenhouse and his vineyard and his stables. He may as well let me have this one thing.
We're about halfway done, but the honest satisfaction on a client's face is enough to push me through. Let's face it, in between my exasperation at Mr. Wright's antics and her, I've been burning the candles at both ends. I can't even close my eyes without seeing the dead girl's face. The friend who tried to kiss you and you push her out of the window to her death. Dead girl, dead. She's dead. I have to keep reminding myself that. Burying my feelings as deep as they've buried her body, 6 feet under. I shouldn't waste so much time on someone who's supposed to be gone. I've wasted so many years thinking about her already. There should be no need to bother myself with the dead when I should be bothering myself with the living. Too bad the living are usually as complicated, if not more, than ghosts of the past.
But don't you have a party?
Yes. But Luke's just being a sweetie, you see. That friend he's visiting.
Sweetie.
He's having marital problems and he's just trying to cheer him up.
It's even more complicated when the living in question is a pair of rich and famous socialites way past their honeymoon phase. And I've been somehow roped into being a relationship counselor.
They've been married for a long time and they've hit a... how do they say it? A rough patch. His wife has a drinking problem and can be very neglectful. The poor thing really does his best to be a good husband, but it's never enough for her. Sometimes I think it's the years. Maybe it's been so long that they've lost that romantic spark. What do you think?
If I'm going to be completely honest, I need to ask. This is about you and Mr. Wright, isn't it?
Suppose it is. What would you tell me?
Then, I tell you it's none of my business. I tell you that I don't want to meddle. But, if the troubled husband with the neglectful wife asked me for my honest opinion, I'd say that he shouldn't base his happiness and his self-worth on someone else. Maybe he should try being independent for a while. See what it's like when he isn't trying to please someone else and doing things for himself. Everyone's supposed to be their own man or woman, right? A bit of breathing room never hurt anyone. We shouldn't let our fear control our lives.
Why she thinks a single woman like me would be the best source of relationship advice is beyond me. Still, I talk and answer to the best of my abilities. Without realizing it, I'm already pouring out a part of me that I had thought were long gone. I'd like to believe my words will be of some help to Mrs. Wright. If I'm honest though, they are of some help to me, like some weight have been taken off my shoulders. Lorraine.
I really should handle what's left of the work.
You won't be attending the party? Oh, you really must, Marianne.
The weight of what happened to her hasn't left me yet, did it? Maybe.
I'll try to stay in chat. Maybe grab a few bites and a drink, but I can't be around for the entirety of the event. My apologies. Busy, busy, busy.
You must stay a while. I'd love for you to meet some of my friends, and they're ever so excited to meet you. You need to say hello to the Lees, at least. If it wasn't for them, I'd never even heard of you.
Maybe it's about time I changed that.
We'll see. So, if I can be excused?
Certainly. You'll have to excuse me as well. I must attend to the party before any early birds arrive. Because, believe me, they will throw a fuss if things aren't ready, even when they're not supposed to be here until an hour later.
Though I shouldn't dwell on the dead, I shouldn't just callously forget about them too. Saying that I have work left to do is an easy enough excuse to make. I know how other people see me. They see someone so obsessed with her craft that she would so easily miss things like a party for it. Outside the parlor, people hurry about here and there in preparation for the Wright's grand housewarming party. None spare me a glance as I slip past them, each working on their appointed roles and not daring to slack off while they work for what is probably the most powerful couple in Luxbourne. Hey Leon, how are you? I make it into the kitchen with ease, the wine cellar being my final destination. But when is a great task ever simple? Probably never. And this is a great task, isn't it? My greatest one yet that is worthy of being called a quest. I'm not acting as Marianne McCullough, the professional interior designer, when I choose to lie about being too busy for a party. I'm Marianne McCullough, a lawful, neutral cleric with 9 points in wisdom and 8 in charisma. Just thinking of it like that makes it a bit cheesy, but it helps with the fear. It helps overcome the insane thought that I'm actively seeking out something that has been plaguing me for years. I might face my worst nightmare, or I might see nothing and find my self-imagined grand quest fall flat. And who would have thought that the gatekeeper to my final quest would be someone I thought would be a valuable ally?
Schnell! Hurry up, you snails! We are on a deadline and you are wasting my time!
The butler comes from the cellar and into the kitchen, tailed by a couple of others, people who I assume are most likely chefs and bartenders. He raises a brow, seeing me just standing there by the hatch, by the trap door. It almost looks like he's going to throw me out for being in the kitchen without permission. But then he motions for the others to disperse and familiarize themselves with their surroundings. Meanwhile, he continues to stand there, preventing entry into the darkness beyond.
What are you doing here, Fraulein? This is not the place for guests or in an architect right now. I request you leave.
I was just looking around for any last minute things, yes?
Yes, you have been doing that a lot. looking around, snooping about. Now is not the time for such things. If you're not careful, people might think you are up to something.
The look he gives me as he says this is almost chilling. If life was a game book, he'd probably be the true neutral warlock guarding the treasure room. A difficult opponent to beat with 9 points in wisdom and 8 in dexterity?
Well, I'm not done yet. I actually need to go into the wine cellar. Just need a quick go at the place. So just don't mind me. I'll be out of your hair soon enough.
Go outside, enjoy the party. Bask in the praise and adulation they will no doubt shower you with when the madam speaks highly of you. Surely you've had enough of this stuffy old kitchen by now. You do not want to cause trouble. Both the bratwurst and Hannah want this to be perfect. It would be a disservice and a disrespect to toe out of line and risk it being anything otherwise. And more importantly, I will be blamed for any failure that happens tonight.
His intervention almost turns me away. Maybe this is a sign I'm not meant to seek Lorraine out. But
Please. I just lost something the last time I was down there. It's really important.
15 minutes. 9, 10 minutes. Any longer and I'll pull you out of there myself. The bratwurst will be furious if he thinks anyone is touching his precious wine without his permission.
Thank you. This seriously means a lot.
he steps aside begrudgingly. At this point, it looks like there's no turning back. The cellar greets me ominously as I descend. The space feels... Oh, now there's a mirror in the back. The space feels smaller, with a lot more bottles lining the wall compared to before. And knowing what might be waiting for me here makes things worse. I almost hope, in a morbid, twisted sense, that Lorraine would just be standing there, waiting for me. It would be just like her to joke about inappropriate meeting in dark, secluded areas. But just like the broken bottles and wine that was spilled on the ground before, no trace of her can be found.
Lorraine! Where are you, Lorraine?
Just an idiot.
I miss you, you know?
Only silence replies. Funny that when you want to find something, that's the time when you can't. The thought that I wouldn't be able to see Lorraine one last time fills me with such despair. Sure, it was crazy to come here willingly in the first place, but all I'm really looking for is closure. And if I can't see her, the least I can do is offer her a prayer. On the verge of tears, I kneel in the middle of the dark, damp wine cellar and put my hands together in prayer.
May God grant her eternal rest in...
This is when her laughter fills the air. The rings along the walls until it rings along the walls until it echoes in my head. And like a siren song, it draws me in before it could stop. Before it comes to a stop upon reaching a dead end.
Ooh, could it be an adventure then? A secret passage. There must be a hidden switch somewhere. Go look. This is the most interesting thing you've done by far.
A secret entrance, although the idea in and of itself is inane, only makes this entire endeavor even more perilous. But I need to find a way to open it. Already, I'm running my hands against the wall in order to find some sort of hidden switch. It didn't give when I tried to push it open before, and I doubt that it would be changed anytime soon. But if there's a door, there's always a way to open it, hopefully without the need to break it down.
A shame I can't roll for perception checks in real life.
It's such a silly thing to say out loud. Though there is no amusement on my face, and I do check, glancing at the mirror from the study.
Though a sanity check would be more fitting right now, wouldn't it?
I mean, How long have I been down here searching for a switch of a hidden door? In order to go find a dead girl, no less. It isn't only unreasonable, it's insane. At this point, they'll find me clawing at the walls, using my nails to try and see if there are any grooves or catches I might have missed. I'm surprised I haven't gone past the 10 minutes that was given to me, and that I'm not being hauled out of here. I don't want to bank on the chance that I have more time, although I know it's... I really shouldn't let these kind of things bother me too much right now. If I don't continue looking, there's no point in me going down here. Dirt and rocks stick underneath my fingernail in my search, but there. A section of the wall about the size of my palm, and just as hidden as the hollow wall is a switch, or a button rather.
Face it, Tigress. You've just hit the jackpot.
The excitement I feel at the discovery finds me pressing it without a second thought. But when the click echoes in the cellar and the hidden door creaks open, I stop. Might as well. You want to go find something scary, go find something scary. No time like the present, eh? I have to hurry in. I turn around when there's a crash. In my haste, I bumped into the mirror, making it fall to the ground and shatter into 100 pieces. And shit. I hope that isn't an original piece. I don't think my insurance will be able to cover it. I can probably find an imitation to replace it in. Ew. The door slams shut behind me, and I nearly have a heart attack because of it. But when I see a much more visible lever on this side, I calm down and shake my head. On the other side is a passageway, an underground tunnel that has me mystified for a mere moment till I realize what it holds. Cells closed off by heavy iron bars line the sides. A general sense of death and decay lingers heavily, though the years should have taken away most of it, if not all of the stench. But why is the torches lit though? Desperate to deal with her painful past, Marianne McCullough excused herself from attending the housewarming party to search for Amy Lorraine within the mansion, but in the process she stumbled upon an underground prison hidden in its deepest corners. Of the foul smell of humans and corpses alike being left to rot. The breeze, most likely coming from the other end of the passage that goes through is to thank for that. If the place had been enclosed like a mausoleum, I imagine the odor would be fouler than it is now.
Dear Lord in St. Adelaide, bless these poor souls.
I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Though the architecture of their time was magnificent, human rights wasn't exactly a thing back then. And if the Armengard Mansion had a place like this hidden away, who knows what sorts of heinous acts were done down here. It's a sex dungeon, so what? There's no time to dwell on it further though. Not when... Oh God! A ghastly thing, a corpse of a woman, leans on the wall. Her arms and limbs, almost every inch of her lithe body, is peppered with wounds and rotting flesh. And it is then that the putrid smell of blood and gore hits me, making it so that I don't even question how I missed it in the first place.
How long is this thing here? Oh, that smell. Oh, you're a nasty one, aren't you?
I flinch as the thing twitches. As soon as it opens its eyes and looks at me with a smile, there's nothing on my mind but horror. I break into a run. I try to keep on running no matter how much my legs and feet scream at me to stop. I keep running even when I look back and see nothing of her anymore, because I can still hear her. The scampering of her feet, the words she tries to form with a bloodied mouth, and the painful sounds of bones grinding against each other as she moves closer and closer to me.
How long are these damn tunnels?
There's a split second where I know that thing is right behind me, a strange sensation creeping over my limbs when her presence looms over me. And then suddenly, I can't even do anything before I'm yanked by the hair and pulled back. Still, I struggle up until I'm thrown to the side like some rag doll. I hit the ground on my side, and the musty smell of old hay that reaches me is only my indication that I'm still alive.
Please don't hurt me.
My body hurts, and I keep my eyes shut tight, afraid of what might happen next.
What's wrong, Marianne? Are you really afraid of little old me?
There's a flash of hope. She can help me, save me from that thing. But as I see her smile, the same one that thing have, I know then that this isn't Lorraine. I'm a fool to think so in the first place. It never could have been her to begin with. The real Lorraine is dead. She looms over me, backs me further in the cell that I was thrown in.
What are you?
Lorraine turns and shifts into that thing from before. And with that same gruesome grin, it takes a step forward towards the cell. Towards me. I barely scramble to my knees when the door to the cell slams shut and it just stands there, staring. Shouts for help ring out in the tunnels. But none of them are coming from me. I'm more paralyzed and shocked by what is happening. My throat tightens at being fooled by the image of Lorraine, at the thought of being trapped down here. So then, where...
Help me! Help me! Oh, help me! Are you getting all this on camera, Carl?
What? Why do they have a TV in there? Oh, it's like a camcorder.
Yeah, but are you both sure this is a good idea? Freaking enamoring. Don't worry, the owners of this place haven't been here in a long time. Look at this thing, though. It has writing in blood like some cheesy 80s horror prop. Wait, I have an idea. Oh man, that's genius.
What kind of butthead would even take this thing seriously? Maybe we could stick this in Rowan's backpack. That's what our kid would panic.
Uh-oh.
What? Spit it out. Behind you!
There in the corner of the cell, a digital camera comes flickering to life, and the video has played back on the screen. It was hard to even consider paying any attention to it when my life is on the line. When the ghost doesn't move and the teenagers mocking shouts of help filled the cell, I just had to watch. And what I had seen, students, judging by their St. Goretti uniforms, they were holding that letter. And that thing, the woman, she... What? While trying to escape the phantom disguising as a friend, Marianne discovered an underground prison hidden in the deepest corners of the mansion. Now trapped in one of its cells, she found a recording left behind by some of the mansion's victims. So I guess maybe later on we're gonna revisit these other characters because I don't think she's gonna die. Seems like they just end like each story at like some kind of that's a cliffhanger or something. So once you go through all of them, maybe we'll go back to each character. I don't know. Well, the one for Isabella, I guess nothing happened to her because then we see her trying to investigate the situation. So maybe somebody will find Marianne and save her. Now, Marianne's story actually is shorter than everyone else's prior because it only took what, a stream and a quarter to finish his story. Everyone else actually took about 2 streams, about 4 hours. Okay, so Rebecca is 29 years old. She's Scottish. No. Religion atheist. So she's the smart one. Raised Kirk. Master's degree in education, major in European history. Stovies, reading in the library, going to the gym, cycling and jogging, lacrosse, and lesson plans. Lesson plans is her hobby. Although of Scottish descent, she grew up in Luxbourne and even went to school in St. Goretti. Her parents were professors of European history and Southeast Asian history at Luxbourne University. They were often busy, and that forced Rebecca to be independent early on. Surrounded by books and instilled with a love for learning, she was a star pupil and was often called the teacher's pet for it. Her passions for academics, leading to a career in the industry, was to be expected of her. She came out of her shell in her high school years and started becoming the Spitfire she is now. Before then, Ashton was her only friend, though she found him aggravating at first. Independent and used to taking care of others, it was no surprise when she helped out the young foreigner who moves in next door. This is how it begins, or so they say, with a gentle wind drifting through wide open windows, muffled laughters and footsteps fading behind empty hallways, and the light kiss of the afternoon sun. Soon there will be a call, a crossing of thresholds into the unknown. Maybe we are off to some grand adventure, or diving into another gripping mystery. One can't really tell. For all I know, a hero might even come sweep me off my feet, if I'm lucky.
That's not exactly a bad thing when you think about it.
But this is far from one, isn't it? A riveting tale, that is. The mild breeze, the faint murmurs, the warm rays painting every nook and cranny a fiery hue. They are all as real as they can get. As much as I want to write a little tale out of this, I'm far from someone who can. Fleeting fancies, that's what these are. Merely passing thoughts to occupy an idle mind while waiting for another busy workday to end. Then again, maybe in another life, I am one. Who knows? But at present, what I have and what I have chosen to be. Well,
I won't last years here if I find teaching rowdy adolescents a tedious job, will I?
admittedly, the whole affair isn't exactly as grand or exciting as I had imagined as a child. If I weren't so stubborn and too passionate about the whole idea, I probably would have quit a long time ago. But it's always the kids that make it worthwhile, isn't it? As if in agreement, as soon as my pen slides into a neat circle against the papers I'm grading, the final bell rings. Like a dam, it has opened. Students begin piling out into the hallway soon after. For a short minute, I let that noise fill my ears, let my mind wander to a place far removed from all the hubbub. Solitary moments like this have come few and far between lately. Even my own home hasn't been as quiet as usually I prefer. Though in hindsight, the entire place hasn't been the same either, since Isabella moved in next door. And if her fussing over a minor cold last week tells me anything, I might as well throw any idea of solitude out the nearest balcony, so long as she lives nearby. At the memory, my eyes automatically shift over the bottle sitting at the edge of my desk. A chuckle escapes me as I reach for
A
it.
little ball of energy and enthusiasm. That's a big baby.
Mother hen, she calls me, and then says and does the same thing right after. It's not that I'm unused to being on the receiving end of other people's worries, or I feel any sort of appreciation over her fretting. If I am to be completely honest, it's actually amusing how someone can be childlike one minute, then act like a responsible adult the next. But there's a dissonance there, both in her actions and words. Although she may not like it, may not say anything, may not lose her cheer, one way or another, I know these troubles have weighed down on her lately. Her face says it all. That big numpty. If she thinks I won't notice, she's got another thing coming for her. That's how she always been. I do understand that part loud and clear. It's just that I'd really rather not pass another burden on to her.
Or become one myself.
Aren't I supposed to be the one taking care of them? Though I guess that's simply one of those things people eventually grow away from once you've all started leading different lives. Not completely different, I hope. Somehow that thought makes me feel uneasy. Thankfully, before strange ideas can take root in my head, a faint buzzing comes from my bag, cutting through the rest of my thoughts. A small frown forms in my lips when the green screen lights up, and an unknown number flashes. For a long second, my thumb hovers over the answer button. Even the voice that responds, once I do accept the call, it's wholly unfamiliar.
Oh, goodness. Finally, it connects. Hello? Is this Miss Gales? Rebecca Gales?
Yes,
Who's this? I don't remember this call.
Yes, speaking. Who is this?
Oh, sorry. Where's Cooper? Briar Realty Corporation.
Briar Realty?
My frown deepens as I straighten from my chair. Something in her tone, despite sounding remarkably friendly and light, doesn't quite suit well with me. The rigid pause that follows doesn't help ease the tension that has suddenly descended either.
Miss Cooper?
Yes. Things are a bit busy on my end. I apologize. I'm not certain if Isabella has mentioned anything before, but we're working together on a property at the moment, and
The Amagod Mansion, yes. She said something about that earlier. Is there a problem?
this is about Isabella, actually.
She wastes no time relaying everything. The details she provided are, admittedly, a bit vague, but enough for me to get a gist of what happened. It isn't the bad sort of expecting, though still worrying, especially with words panic attack and pale looking a bit sickly woven together in one foreboding sentence. But as quickly as it surfaces, I stomp down the urge to demand answers. Right there and then. Now isn't the proper time for useless questions. I'll find out soon enough, regardless. To Miss Cooper's credit, she neither hesitates nor falters all throughout. There's some sort of comfort in knowing Isabella has someone like her to guide her, though not as much as I would have liked. After all, this is Isabella we're talking about. What are the chances she just said a bunch of excuses so she won't get sent home? High. Very high. Oh, she is so going to hear it this time.
You were listed as one of her
How is she? Is
Oh.
she doing okay?
You were listed as one of her emergency contacts, so I thought it'd be best you know about this. I had her take a break for now, but honestly, I'd feel better if someone were to pick her up and take her home for some rest. Anthem's a fair distance from Luxbourne. I really don't want her going off on her own. I do it myself, but oh, you know how it is today. Big day. People everywhere until the open house ends. I'm really sorry to ask this of you, Miss Gales. I know you're busy.
Oh, no, it's all good. I was just about to leave from work. I hope to leave early today anyway. A few minutes ahead wouldn't hurt. I can be there in a few, 30, 40 minutes tops. Is that all right?
More than fine, Miss Gales, thank you. We're supposed to be here until... Oh, excuse me. One moment, please. Yes, ma'am.
The faint hum of conversation echoes from her end. It sounds as though the place is buzzing with more people than you'll expect from a regular open house. But I thought Ash was the one who took her home. I was skeptical at first. The house is old, not to mention its inconvenient location in Luxbourne's outskirts. Who wants to live in a place almost an hour's drive away from the comforts of a city? I'd like that. I mean, you don't need to be close to the city anymore these days. But for what little I can hear, it appears Isabella has every right to be optimistic about the sale. If I didn't understand why she was so adamant refusing my offer of help before, I think I do now, to some
We'll
degree.
be resuming the tour soon. Yes, thank you. Sorry about that. I really need to get this thing going. Lord knows how I'll salvage the situation here. It shouldn't be anything complicated, but still, clients. They can be difficult when they want to be.
Why is she complaining to a stranger on the phone?
Anyway, just look for me when you get here, alright? That shouldn't be too hard to miss.
No problem. Thanks for letting me know about this. Just make sure Isabella stays put, please. Heaven knows how stubborn that girl can be.
Oh, believe me, I know. Don't worry about it. I'll have a few of our staff keep an eye on her for me until you get here.
That's all I'm asking. I appreciate it.
The whole thing ends on a surprisingly pleasant note. If only the same can be said for the news she brought. I allow myself a brief minute to pass to ease whatever tension has latched itself firmly to my nerves. But no matter how much I wish for it, my mind stubbornly refuses to do so. My hands are unsteady against the papers I pretend to arrange after. Lucid thoughts, every single ounce of it grimmer than the other, grows with each passing second I linger. Something about this whole situation, along with the sudden unease and nagging worry, screams off. Wrong. This isn't the riveting tale I'd hoped to step into today. Even on a rush, Getting everything in order before leaving takes nearly a good quarter hour. By the time I make it out of the classroom, the commotion has already died down, dwindling to mere echoes and distant laughters. From the nearby room, melodies from a rehearsing band drifts freely into the air, filling the almost empty hallway with their warm, lively tunes. Any other day, I'll stop, bask in the music, and enjoy what little peace it brings. Not today, however. My steps are brisk and sure as I march to Edward Hall's exit. The sooner I confirm Isabella's okay, the sooner I can shake off this niggling feeling. For one reason or another, that single call, of all possible things, has thrown everything off kilter. I'd rather this be over with as quickly as possible. So much that I nearly barrel over a student in my haste. Though perhaps it's really the other way around. Ah, it's that stupid kid. When I look down, a set of eyes, bright and hopeful, stare back at me. Her arms are wrapped around the waist like a vice, and at my attention, a grin spreads over her face.
Buenas tardes, Miss Pink.
Hello, Kylie. You know, you aren't supposed to run into people like that.
Sorry, Miss Pink.
She loosens her hold on me, but not a hint of guilt or regret appears on her. If anything, it seems the remark only amused her. A smile appears on my face before I can help it, matching the one on her own.
Just remember not to do it again, alright? You could get hurt.
You sound like my mama when she's scolding Rowan, Miss
Ma!
I'm sure your mama only means well. I know she'll be worried sick if one of you were to get hurt. Where's your brother anyway? Aren't you two supposed to be heading home now?
Rowan said he's got some stuff he needs to do before we go. I think he's taking too long. But he promised to buy me jelly babies today. If I keep what he's doing a secret from Mama and Papa.
Any chance you'll tell Miss Pink about it?
She shakes her head, her hands going to her mouth as if to keep a precious secret from spilling out.
I made a promise. He said it's for Tio Luke.
Oh, something like a gift?
Like a deal. Tio promised to take him somewhere cool when he's old enough. Rowan's gonna prove he's a grown-up.
Laughter slips free from my lips. The teacher in me wants to give whoever this Tio is a reprimand for bringing about this kind of behavior in children. But if both Suarez kids are so fond of him, there shouldn't be anything to worry about, yes? At any rate, they're nothing but well behaved, both Kylie and her brother. Rowan, the eldest, may have an occasional odd streak in and out of class, but the parents taught them well. I see no reason to cast any suspicion of bad behavior on them.
As long as it isn't anything dangerous, alright?
It's not. Cross my heart. My drawings are a lot prettier than what he's doing anyway. Tio said so. Do you want to see? I drew one earlier at class.
Is that why you're here?
Not really. I was gonna show it to my friend first. But since it's you, I'm sure she wouldn't mind if you see it before she does.
Oh no. I can't stay right now, Kylie.
Her face falls immediately after the words are out. A small part of me feels responsible for that crestfallen look. But as much as I want to stay a little longer, there's another place I need to be right now. And frankly, another child to look after. Taking both of her hands, I kneel in front of her and muster the most rueful smile I can give. At her age, I'm quite sure she already understands what I'm about to say before they're even out. But remarkably, she doesn't look away or pout as I'm expecting her to.
I'm sorry. You know what? Rowan has a class with me on Monday around this time. Why don't you drop by again next week? After class? I'll even make sure to wait for you. It's just that I absolutely must leave now. My friend had an accident earlier, and I'm the only one she has here.
She really had to do that with this little brat?
What about her mama and papa?
Her family lives really far from here, I'm afraid. Do you remember where Asia is? The southeast part? That's where they are.
She's telling every personal detail about Isabella to this little brat. For what reason? Just say, I gotta go. Bye, bitch. Her eyes immediately light up at my question. Just like that, I know I've earned the girl's forgiveness.
Oh, just like Takako.
Who?
My friend. She said she used to live there, only just a little higher than southeast. But she hasn't come home in a long time, so she doesn't remember much about it anymore. Melody says it's weird I talked to her, but I think she's just shy. They could be good friends too. Don't you think so, Miss Pink?
Maybe if you introduce them properly, they will be.
That's what I think. Takako's just lonely. If she makes more friends, she won't be anymore. Is your friend like that too?
A little, possibly. To be honest, sometimes I can't tell with her.
Can you just go? After all, Isabella has always been the kind to hold a smile, even when things have taken a turn for the worse. "5 years and one will think it's enough time to know a person. But when you consider it, come to think of it, all these years, I've never, not even once, seen her cry. Not of a trivial matter, even when things are tough.
Okay, you can go to her. I'll just show you my drawing next time.
Thank you. Remind me to buy you a huge glass of parfait, all right?
Not only had she she had to apologize for this, she also has to bribe this bitch when next time she sees her. Really?
No, I'll get a stomachache. Takako says so. A small one is okay.
I'll remember that. Say hi to your friend for me.
I will. I'm sure she'd love to meet you too. See you, Miss Pink.
I'll see you later, Kylie.
London Bridge is falling down, falling down, falling
She doesn't
down.
look back or wait
London
for any
Bridge
sort of
is
goodbye
falling
from me.
down. My
With a song
fair
and an extra spring in her steps, she bounds across the corridor as much spirit as a child her age can have. As if the conversation has never taken a downhill turn for her at all. As if there isn't a single thing to worry about in the world. Not long after, she disappears behind a door, leaving behind strains of an old familiar rhyme lingering in the air. Carefree, unbidden, untroubled moments like this, I envy her. As I resume my hurried pace, a tiny whisper at the back of my mind wishes the same can be said of my friend, of myself and my own worries. Rebecca Gales received a phone call from Rose Cooper after class, asking her to pick up Isabella Santos from the Avant-Garde mansion. On her way out of school, an excited Kylie Suarez stops her favorite teacher from leaving. So when... I thought, where's the part? So October 21st. When they actually go to see a movie together. Yeah, right here. Blue Fonse. Okay. She wasn't the one who picked her up though. Wait. Luxor may be a small city, but it's no stranger to hellish rush hour traffic. But surprisingly, getting out of the city today proves more of a breeze than a hassle. A relief, considering how none of my calls to Isabella have made it through. Either the reception's really bad over there, or she's ignoring them on purpose. Both does nothing to ease my disquiet in me. The rest of my drive passes without much incident as soon as I'm out of the busy streets. In less than 30 minutes, the mansion looms ahead of me. For all the fuss Isabella made about the house, it remains a thing of beauty. Unlike Luxborn, the estate and the nearby Anslem village stand as its complete opposite, living and breathing the song of the old, whispers of a once booming haven lingering in the air. Contemporary conveniences aside, it's a place I'm glad modernization hasn't wholly touched.
It's just a shame the locals know more of the silly hearsay than the history itself. If I could only knock some sense into these people.
Sadly, complaining is all I can afford to do. As much as I want to give them a piece of my mind, it isn't why I'm here. I don't think these rich types will appreciate getting a lecture from me either. I have as much business with them as they have with me. With a heavy sigh, I give myself one last second to take in the scenery before heading up to the main entrance. Most of the guests are already heading out. She came in late. Though some still linger, it's mainly just to take photos of the house's facade or its various rooms. I pause for a moment, scanning the small crowd gathered at the foyer, looking for any sign of that familiar ponytail among the sea of hats and heads.
No sign of her.
No sign of the other staff or Miss Cooper either. I can certainly look for Isabella on my own, but in a place this big, I'd be lucky if I didn't end up lost or find her before we need to meet with Zachary and Ash tonight. Sighing, I reach for my mobile and redial her number. The gesture, familiar now after so many attempts earlier. If she doesn't answer, I can still try contacting Miss Cooper. I just hope the network reception will cooperate this time. This side of the country has never been popular with the tech savvy after all. To my relief, it only took 3 unsuccessful tries. At the 4th one, right as it's about to switch to another intercept message, the line finally rings. Silence follows while I wait for it to pick up, the ringing going far too long for my tastes. By now, most of the visitors are already cleared out. All I have for company are the faint murmurs and the eerie calmness left in their wake. A sudden hush settles and gives way to noises louder than they're ever meant to be. Doors creaking and slamming shut in some distant part of the mansion, floorboards groaning under the sheer weight of the house's history. In the now empty hall, they all reverberate with special clarity against the walls. Like this, those stories seem to almost have a ring of truth to it. I don't get to stray far into that ugly line of thought, however. Not a second later, a click sounds from the other end.
Hello? Isabella? Miss Cooper called earlier and... Isabella? Belle? Are you alright?
Without any warning, the call gets cut off. Busy tones blare sharply against the heavy silence, but above the noise cutting through the mute air remains the faint cries of a woman from beyond the foyer. My hand falls to the side as I cast a wary look, waiting for someone to come running. Surely I can't be the only one here hearing this. There must still be some staff hanging around, checking things out, but no one does. Not even when her sobs turn more frantic and anguished.
Excuse me? Hello? Who's there? Isabella? Isabella?
No answer. Growing anxious, I amble over her cries from where her cries come from, each step slow and cautious, towards a door on the other side of the room. While I'm far from someone who readily gives in to fear or stories lacking factual basis, the vague, restless feeling I have earlier immediately returns to me. And despite myself, my heart begins to race and my breathing quickens.
Belle? Belle, it's me. Miss Cooper called. Is everything okay?
Abruptly, all of it stops. My whole body tenses, mouth dragging in ragged breath, ears straining for any other sound yet to come from the other side. But nothing follows. Instead, the quiet only lends itself to the heavy tension in the air, as if every small movement will disturb the fragile stillness hanging in the room. Dear Lord. I wait for another second. Then, with a caution, I reach for the knob. My fingers barely graze the brass handle when a hand falls on my shoulder.
Excuse me.
Oh, that's,
I am so sorry. I didn't mean to startle you.
It's a...
Still reeling, my gaze shifts back to the door, as if any second now the cries will start again, and whoever's inside will burst out of the room. But I don't get to dwell on these. The woman's worried voice breaks through the haze in my mind again, oddly soothing in the thick of my unease. Even if the concerned look comes from a total stranger, finally being in the company of someone else is somehow comforting.
Ma'am? Are you okay?
Oh, no, I'm fine. This is probably just some cold.
Do you need to sit down?
No need. I'm actually looking for a friend.
I wave the mobile in front of her, like the gesture alone explains everything. Vaguely, I note my tight grip on it and quickly slips it into my pocket before she notices. She doesn't need to know.
Well, I'm not really sure if your friend would still be here. We're actually about to close the open house in a few minutes, ma'am.
No worries. She's not a guest here. She works for Briar Realty. Miss Cooper called me earlier. In fact, I'm also looking for her.
Recognition flashes in her eyes, and her worried expression dissolves into a smile at once. It's all I need to know that I don't have to look elsewhere or venture deeper into the mansion on my own. In some way, I'm not too keen on the latter right now.
Oh, Miss Rebecca Gales, is it?
Yes. Sorry if I'm a bit late.
It's not a problem. I was busy with the open house and a few clients anyway. It's actually a good thing you came when you did. Let's see. Isabella should be here somewhere. I told her to stay put earlier. That girl never listened.
Rose? Rosie? May I have a minute? There's just this one little thing before we go.
Miss Cooper's head immediately snaps up at the voice. In a blink, a different kind of smile spreads on her face. A smile, still friendly even, but the kind given mainly for the sake of pleasing other people rather than making friends.
Yes, ma'am. I'll be there in a few.
It's an impressive thing, to say the least. That level of professionalism. I suppose working years in this kind of business trains you enough to be able to pull that off without batting an eye. It certainly didn't seem to have rubbed off on Isabella, though.
Sorry, could you give me a second? I have to take care of this.
Don't worry about it. I understand. I can wait a few more minutes. Clients, right?
You won't hear anything from me. Priorities, you know? But if you want, you can stay at the parlor in the meantime. I think we have a few refreshments left.
No, thank you. I'm going out with a few friends after this. Isabella's supposed to join us too. But that depends on how she's doing, of course.
Alright, this won't be long, I promise.
She throws me an apologetic look before sauntering over the small group gathered at the entrance. A couple, or siblings, and another woman, probably their secretary. Either way, they looked no different from the other guests. All three of them primly dressed, albeit in a manner significantly simpler than the others. No frills, no extravagance of any form, but their gestures and movements alone speak volumes of their ingrained lifestyle. In their presence, I do what I can to appear inconspicuous on my side of the foyer. Maybe accepting Miss Cooper's offer would have been a much better choice than standing around awkwardly and gaping at them, all while also attempting my best not to listen in on their conversations. Although that one proves more difficult with how enthusiastic the blonde woman is. Her voice easily echoes through the walls with only the five of us here. Pretty soon I find myself drawn into their talk without meaning to.
Tomorrow? First thing in the morning?
First thing in the morning, Mum.
The mundane talk isn't what catches my attention, however.
Very well. We'll have our lawyers prepare everything as soon as possible. Let's make this whole thing easier for everyone, shall we? Just let me know if there's anything you need from me. You know how to contact me, yes?
Got your mobile number saved here already.
Good. It's just a matter of time then.
It's a brief moment, a fleeting shift of my eye.
Monday for us, Marianne.
As long as you're positive, we won't be having any problems by that time. You can count on my team.
You worry too much. Let me handle those things. Do be thrilled, though. I imagine it's not every day you get projects like this, hmm?
And the instant I turn my gaze on him, I see it.
Oh, I'm certain Mint's ecstatic, Buttercup. Aren't you, Marianne? You know, we could all celebrate this with a few drinks. Why don't we? In fact, there's this really excellent Irish pub I visited a few days ago.
Looming, hovering over his shoulders, drawn to him like a moth to a flame, a dark blur. No, a shadow. Oh.
I think I'll pass on that, sir.
Oh, I see it too now.
More important matters to attend to.
I don't know, she's busy.
But as I try to make sense of it, a heavy feeling descends over my whole body. It happens without warning, forcing me to close my eyes. The sensation creeps to every part of me, crawling under my skin and draining me little by little of any strength. Before I know it, my hand is gripping the nearby door for support. The sudden nausea drowns out their voices and what little sound there is, all except for the whispers and laughters. Judging, mocking, taunting, muffled, inaudible words bearing down on me like a death sentence. They wrap around my neck, limbs, binds tightening with every syllable, every utterance. And with each draw of breath I take, they drag me down slowly, almost painfully, into a bottomless abyss, on and on and on, till the sound turned into a mere distant echoes, until suddenly it shatters.
Well, what are we waiting for? Are we done here?
His voice rips through the fog like a sharp blade, and my eyes snap open. When I look at them again, it's gone.
You can head back to the car first if you want, Luke. I hope that settles everything, Rose. I don't know what Isabel's problem is, but please make sure she doesn't hurt herself. Anyway, we're looking forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Likewise, ma'am.
No shadows or dark clouds. Only amicable smiles and cordial handshakes. The usual pleasantries as Miss Cooper leads them out of the mansion like a graceful host. None of the group seems to have noticed it. And even as I force my breathing to come down, keep my eyes strained on their backs, and wait for something to happen, it doesn't come back. She returns a moment later. Gently, she closes the grid doors behind her, but there's a smile on her lips, an extra skip in her step when she walks back to me. Whatever she was discussing with the group had put her in a good mood. Even she appears to have not observed anything odd. I was just seeing things.
Glad that was over.
It's been a long day. I thought for sure we were going to... hey, are you sure you're doing okay? You look a bit green.
It's all good. I'm actually still recovering from a cold. The weather's been crazy lately.
That must be it. The weather, the stupid cold, and the friendly warnings I'm too stubborn to listen to. As much as I hate to admit it, Isabella's right. I was, and still am, a little feverish when she visited me at school this morning. The medicine helped, of course, but only some. Although, it's not like I can't function. It did get better after lunch, and I was able to go through my schedule like the usual. Now I'm not so sure. However, I can't keep acting like I've seen some sort of apparition when it's anything but. I simply must have listened too many times to Isabella last week. My fever-muddled mind has started to confuse things. If this doesn't let up, I just need another visit to my doctor, plain and simple. Though I do hope it won't get worse. We did promise to watch a Zachary's film together.
I know what you mean. I've been complaining to Isabel. It doesn't seem to affect her much, though. Must be because she grew up in the tropics. Anyway, shall we? She's probably hanging out with the rest of the catering staff.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised she's there. She eats like 10 hungry men when she isn't feeling well. Lead the way.
With a small nod, she gestures for me to follow. I do so without much thought, finally putting everything in the back of my mind. The entire visit took a whole 20 minutes, and my trip to the mansion, as it turns out, is a useless endeavor in itself. Because she already left, that bitch. Let's see. While waiting at the mansion, Rebecca overheard a brief conversation between the right couple, the interior designer, and state agent Rose Cooper. It was discovered afterwards that Isabella had already left a few hours ago. Isabella is no longer there, left shortly before I arrived. Or at least that's what the few staff who saw her assumed. None of them knew where she went, but I can take a few guesses. There are only a number of places in Luxembourg she frequents, and, well, she's never been the complex kind. It doesn't really take a genius to figure it out. Still, it's odd she left on her own. She could have at least waited for Miss Cooper. It would have saved her having to pay the cab's fare twice today.
And right after she was told to stay put! I mean, who does that? Oh, sod off! You don't know the road!
In the end, all Miss Cooper could give me were a string of apologies for my trouble and a request to let her know when I find Isabella. The whole affair didn't even last long. I probably spent more time traveling back and forth. Soon enough, I'm weaving my way back to downtown Luxembourg, worried sick, and on top of that, maybe a little annoyed. Whether at the unexpected turn of events or at Isabella herself, I'd rather not think about for it now. I'd rather not think about for it now. Not when I'm already running late for Zachary's film. Besides, I'm perfectly sure that that's where I'll find her. As one would expect, people are already gathered at the movie house when I get to it. The small avenue where it's located has been closed off early from any passing traffic to make way for the avid moviegoers who are sure to crowd the venue. I have to park almost a street away and walk the remaining distance because of it. Looking for them has taken a while in a crowd this big, but eventually spot them near the entrance, thanks to Zachary mostly. And like I've surmised, Isabella's with them.
I knew it.
Wasting no time, I march over to their little group. Words filled the concerned tumble out of my mouth before I can stop myself.
Isabella! Oh, thank goodness. Becca, you're just in time.
An odd expression crosses her face as I hold it with both hands, but I ignore it in favor of getting a good look at her, forcing her to keep still and fix her gaze at me.
Becca, you're squishing my face. How are you? Are you alright? Why wouldn't I be?
There doesn't seem to be any visible injury, nor does she appear to be in pain. Apart from a confused frown at my question, she looks pretty much like how she would any other day. Even so, you can't really tell those things with her at first glance. The last time she got sick, she never bothered to call anyone, even me, who lives right next door. If I hadn't checked on her then, she probably would have died on the bed with the rest of us none the wiser. It's one thing we laugh about now, but moments like those also teaches you something about a person. If anything, it has given me more reason to constantly worry about her. And the moment a familiar name comes up, I know my concerns right now aren't completely baseless.
Rose called me earlier.
Her expression swiftly changes, and gentle as she can, Isabella pushes my hands away. Even before she says anything, I already have a hunch how this whole thing will play out.
Oh, no, everything's good. Rose covered for me at work today. That's not what I'm talking about. How's your head?
And then and there, the whole conversation goes down as I've imagined. She dodges my hand and when I reach for the back of her head, intending to check the said injury myself, even makes a show of hiding behind Zachary just to avoid me. Instantly, what's supposed to be a simple inquiry dissolves to a shameless game of tag, shouting and chasing, like none of us can be bothered to act like the full-grown adults we're supposed to be. Including Ashton. I won't put it past Isabella, but Ash? Out of everybody? In fact, if that stupid smirk on his face tells me anything, he finds this whole mess amusing. Oh, for the love of...
Isabella, this isn't a laughing matter.
She did look pale when I saw her.
Wow, thanks a lot, Ashton, you traitor. I'll get you back for this. Just you wait.
What? I'm just saying it as it is. If you mentioned this earlier, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now.
There was a moment's pause. My hand stills mid-air as my attention shifts to Ashton and the words he leaves hanging between the four of us. He doesn't meet my eye. I don't think he's even aware of what he said. But the meaning in each syllable alone is clear. And they echo. They sting. They burn.
I'm sorry. Saw her?
Yeah, they arrived together. Bella looked fine to me then. I don't know.
Of course. Of course. What else would Isabella leave on her own after being told to stay put? After that little chat about money this morning, something close to silence falls while I mull over their words, both what's already been said and what's left unspoken. When I do find my voice, it only reeks with nothing but bitter, unpleasant thoughts. Thoughts I quickly stamp out before they surface. Thoughts I hide the best I can in the deepest part of my mind, locking it away for no one to see.
Oh, that's good. At least you didn't have to travel alone, right? At least. Good.
Yet, try as I might, the green-eyed monster easily rears its ugly head. Like it always does every time his gaze lingers a second longer. Every time he smiles in a manner far too gentle, far too sincere, whenever he thinks no one can see. Every time my mind suggests his words mean more than they should. Every small little thing. Despite what he says, despite his tone.
Look, you guys.
For all I know, it may just be the kind of fondness born from friendship. Maybe I'm simply overthinking like he often tells me, or maybe there is something there. But in his short display of impatience, I know the whole of it is just for show. After all, growing up together with him didn't teach me nothing about him. For whose sake it is this time, though? For him? For Zachary? For her? Or for me? That I can't
If she
tell.
says she's okay, then there's nothing we can do about it. It's not like we can stop her either. Besides, she's still acting like the same old Isabella to me, if she can still run around like that.
Why are you taking her side?
I'm not. But if she wants to watch Zach's movie with us, I'm not going to stop her. She's probably the one looking forward to it the most.
Ash, that's... You, of all people, should know...
Tell you what, if I notice something amiss with her, I'll take her to the nearest hospital myself. Is that good enough for you?
My mouth opens and snaps shut almost as quickly, forming a thin, hard line instead. I can't respond. Not because there's nothing to say. On the contrary, there's plenty, so many things I can use to reason and get him to agree. But because he speaks with much certainty, with much reassurance, it feels like there isn't even a choice. All I can give is a long, deep breath and a reluctant nod in the face of it. Before I can get a grip of myself and my own weakness, the mood immediately shifts and I'm being tackled into a hug.
Thanks, Becca.
It's always been you and him, isn't it?
Did you say something?
Me? Nothing. Don't mind me.
A lie, obviously. What else can it be? Each and every smile, a tiny effort to keep things as they are, or so I tell myself. Little do I know, this is merely a preamble. It starts out quietly and without fanfare, amidst friendly jibes and harmless teasing, with a scrap of paper fluttering harmlessly to the ground. One that looks suspiciously like a cheap Halloween prank, no matter how you look at it. And yet, despite how ridiculous it all is, Isabella stubbornly insists, as if our whole life depends on acknowledging the truth in her story. Does she even realize how absurd she sounds now? Crivens, even my students wouldn't fall for this.
Isabella, aren't you taking this a bit too far?
She doesn't give me time to regret, nor think over my choice of words. From there, it escalates, grows into an argument too petty even for our standards as adults. Before we know it, one after another, harsh, scathing words are being spoken.
It's not a joke! Will you guys listen to me first? I saw something in the house earlier. It stood right in front of me. If I hadn't gotten away, that thing might have...
Right. And in broad daylight, Isabella. Even someone gullible would find the logic in that screwed up. There's also no way in hell that this supernatural shit is true.
But it's real! What do you think I saw?
A hallucination? A delusion? Didn't you say you fell down some stairs? So maybe Rebecca's right.
It happened after, when I was trying to get away. I almost got stuck in the same room with that thing. We're all in danger. I thought you were my friends. Why don't you believe me?
Now, someone has to be patient in all this, and however much my own has already been frayed earlier, there's no one else. Who else here can deal with someone selfishly acting like a child? Like every other time, it has to be me.
We are, and you know that. But this thing and that thing has got nothing to do with the other. When Rose called earlier, I thought she's just exaggerating. But based on what I'm seeing right now, maybe it's better if we really postpone this for now.
Don't bother.
Just like that, she cuts us off. Slams the door right in our faces while my own temper flares before I can stop it. Although it falters briefly at the hard expression on her, when she snatches the blast of paper from Ashton, I hold on to it. Regardless of how upset she appears, soured expression and balled fists, throwing a tantrum is simply unacceptable. For a grown woman at that, words form at the tip of my tongue, ready. But before I can open my mouth and let all of it out, her feelings and mistakes be damned, Zachary raises a voice of his own.
Guys!
A warning underneath the warm and hopeful beat in his voice. We all stop and look to him, and even my own anger subsides a little at his tone.
Why don't we all calm down first? I'm sure Isabella has her reasons too. No need to be hard on her. And hey, ain't this supposed to be a happy get-together?
To an outsider, it may sound like a desperate request, but Zachary has always been the one to keep a level head over petty squabbles. This time's no different. He knows what to say, and when he lets it fall, they only ring sharp and true.
We haven't seen each other for months. I'd really love to know what y'all have been up to. I only ever get to talk to Bella over chat. Please.
And as careful as he is with his own tone, it does make me feel ashamed. We're supposed to be here for him, to give what little support we can give. Here he is, trying to keep 3 stubborn people from outright hashing it out in public. Later, we can and will talk about it, of course. There's a proper time and place for it, and at the moment, my anger and whatever reprimands it carries no longer matter. Beside me, Ashton appears to have already caught on. The lines of his shoulders ease to something much more relaxed, his expression back to its usual nonchalance. Isabella, however, she stands perfectly still, her hands clasping at the straps of her bag like a lifeline, eyes strained at some point near her shoes. There's no anger in her face, only an undeniable hurt. But she's never been good at hiding what she thinks. Always the open book, always the one to wear her heart out in the open. And when she looks up, her answer is also as simple.
If we keep arguing here, we're going to miss the first few minutes.
Her lips are curled up in a smile. Though lacking both its usual brightness and glee, it's a smile nonetheless. I've seen it countless times. It's the very same one she would show when she knows has no other choice. What? When she knows she has no other choice, or simply when things get tough for her. But despite everything I already know about her, it still catches me off guard. In all honesty, I expected her to run, to balk at the sight of losing this time. I won't even be surprised. At 26, she is the youngest among the rest of us, less experienced, less accustomed to dealing with trivial quarrels like this. Yet here she is, holding herself and coping with it like how she would with matters concerning her family. Outside of that, to me, she has always been this childish, naive girl, and watching the outside play out right. No. Somehow I find it difficult to wrap my head around it.
Alright, that's the Isabella I know.
Oh, good. I thought for sure you were going to cry.
But I envy her.
What was that for?
Stop calling me a crybaby! I'm not one!
Aw, don't cry.
Stop it!
I envy her spirit, her warmth, her cheer, the shine in her eyes when she looks at the world. How everything seems to simply fall back to a pleasant, lively rhythm with her around. How easily and tightly she fits into our lives, even without bonds only long years could forge, like a lost piece of a puzzle, despite her jagged edges. How she draws people to her with ease. How Ashton, of all people, can be drawn to her.
Okay, scaredy cat then.
That too! If you repeat that, I swear I'll...
Let's just go.
I make no effort keeping the bitterness from my tone. I let it seep, linger stiffly in the air as I avert my gaze from them. From their playful banter, their friendly teasing remarks, and Ashton's tender, affectionate smiles. All before the stabbing aches in my heart change into something too painful to bear. It's all in my head is what I'd often tell myself. Yet the way my heart rends at just the sight of them hurts. And like a coward, I walk away from all of it, taking with me a small hope the movie will distract me away from these thoughts. Because like this, it's easy to find something to hate in her. Dusk has already given way to night when we leave the film fest. Unfortunately, it does nothing to improve my mood like I am hoping. Neither does the muggy air that greets us upon stepping back into the noisy streets. Too busy, too loud, too many people, taking what little space the sidewalk offers. It forces anyone to bump shoulders with those they barely know, let alone care about. On a normal evening, I probably wouldn't have minded the crowd nor the humid weather. It's not like any of them are bothering anyone. And yet, even with what's admittedly a pleasant company, I can't bring myself to lighten up.
See you guys some other time.
Yeah, see ya.
Not even to return the smiles Ashton and Zachary gives us when we go our separate ways. Perhaps this started with Miss Cooper's call, or earlier than that. Maybe even the moment I left bed this morning. Bloody hell, it could have been because of that sodding letter, for all I know. I couldn't care less at this point. All I want is to get a warm bath, sleep, and wait for this dreadful day to end. Now, if only Isabella would stop babbling, then maybe this dull throbbing at the side of my head won't turn into a full-blown headache, too.
Zach did a pretty good job with his movie, didn't he? Even though Ash said he ran into some trouble late into filming.
Eh.
But I knew he had it in him. It's not like I didn't believe he couldn't do it. I mean, did you see his face after the credits rolled? All those months he worked on this, and everything's finally...
You weren't even watching.
Only the first minutes. I watched the rest of it, I swear. Besides, Ashton was the one who wouldn't stop asking questions.
Well, why do we still need to talk about this then? I liked it. Ash liked it. You liked it. Shouldn't you be telling that to Zachary in person? I'm sure he'll appreciate it better than I ever will.
I know that, but maybe there's something you want to say? Zach had you check the scripts before he went through everything, didn't he? You also worked on it, even if it was only for a short time. So, maybe you want to...
I don't bother waiting for the rest. The moment I spot my car, I immediately make a quick beeline for it. Knowing her, this is merely another attempt at starting the conversation. Just so we'll have something to fill the dead air, to replace the strained atmosphere we've somehow walked into. One thing, the very thing I'm not keen to deal with at the present. Beside me, Isabella also changes her pace to match mine, her soft strides growing brisk and uneven in order to catch up. A small part of me half expects she'll suddenly trip. She's not the clumsy sort, but there are definitely times when she can be the least coordinated person on the planet.
Becca, hey! Oh no! Wait for me!
And people wonder why I worry. They're not really completely unfounded, once you've already grown familiar with her habits. Though right now, this is also the very end of the list of things I want to think about. Sometimes it does become overbearing. Even her voice as she calls after me is sounding nothing more than background noise to my ears now.
Rebecca, slow down, will you? Your car's not going to leave without us.
The sooner we get on the road, the earlier we can get home. It's Friday, in case you didn't notice.
I know what day it is, but the traffic's not going to magically disappear, even if we go there right now.
I don't want to hear that from you. Didn't you used to complain how horrendous the traffic is back home for you?
Yeah? But that doesn't have anything to do with this, Becca.
Okay. What do you want to do then? Wait it out? Walk? I just want to go home, Isabella. If you want to stay out here longer, I won't stop you. But leave me out of it. I'm not up for any other foolish excursions tonight.
I wasn't thinking about an excursion. I want to go home too. It's already late. It's just that you've been in this prickly mood since earlier. Are you really okay? Was it the cold? Or did something happen at school? Do you want to talk about it?
A long pause follows, and it holds everything she's been meaning to ask from the very start. I'm in no mood, but all the same, my hand stops short of unlocking the car, and my grip on the handle tightens. I can feel her eyes boring on me, waiting, hoping patiently for any answers I'd give. She's the same as Zachary. They're bad liars. But when you talk to people like them, if you're not careful, they often leave you with no other choice but to admit the truth. Those same exact ones I can't voice. Despite my lack of response, she pushes on, surprisingly. This time her tone is quieter, more tentative than usual.
Was it because of the letter?
It's a well-meaning question, much like the rest of this talk, yet somehow something in how she says it irks me.
If it is, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to cause a scene. I did see something in the mansion, though. I wasn't lying about that.
Wherever she wants to take this, I no longer want to hear a word of it. Not at this minute. Probably never. Especially when there are already a million other things buzzing and prodding inside my head. Sometimes my patience can only be tried for so long. I'm not in the mood to talk to you, bitch. Stealing Ashton away from me.
And during the open house, even if there were a lot of people around, there were weird things.
How is
happening.
Ashton affected by this?
I don't know if there was anyone else who noticed, but I heard things. I'm sure it wasn't because I fell down the stairs. Even before that, in the attic,
Will you get the sorting letter? Arrest already!
The effect is immediate. Abruptly, Isabella clamps her mouth shut. Hurt flickers across her face as she looks away, and her shoulders droop, all before the thought of holding back on my tone or how she'll take every word crosses my mind. When the realization does hit after, a twinge of guilt washes over me at once. But with all that has already happened and said and done, what am I supposed to tell her then? That I'm someone who can be so easily unsettled by my own assumptions? That this stupid sulk has been brought upon by some equally stupid jealousy? That the simple glimpse of her and my childhood friend together infuriates a part of me? Or that I wish I'd been in her place during those times instead? True or not, I owe her neither of those, and if anything, she's the last person I want to know about it.
Look here. I'm not in the mood for this kind of talk tonight. My head is aching and I'm tired. I don't want to hear about the dumb letter, or the mansion, or whatever it was you saw in the bloody attic. Just get in the car and we're going home.
sorry. I won't mention it again.
If you're so worried about it, why don't you just throw the blasted thing away?
You make it sound so easy.
Because it is. Here, hand it over, and I'll do it for you. Might as well shut it up while we're at it.
I hold a hand out to her, though the gesture is without any expectations. She's nothing if not stubborn, and it isn't surprising when she turns the offer down with a swat of her hand.
Rebecca, just leave it alone, okay? I get it. You don't want anything to do with it.
Good. I hope that settles it.
Yeah, just forget I mentioned anything. I'll figure it out myself.
That makes me stop again. This time I turn to look at her, searching her face for an explanation, but all she offers me is a sidelong glance and another one of those pained looks before climbing on the passenger seat and closing the door behind her. Somehow, even with the steady din of traffic around us, the sound of that feels heavier, weighted with everything we refuse to utter tonight. This is what it is. This is what I want, isn't it? It certainly doesn't feel like it. Thankfully, if there's anything left to be spoken between us after, we won't have to discuss it on the way home. Or rather, we can't. Because no sooner than we hit the road, Isabella dozes off. Despite my foul mood, I still end up suppressing a laughter once the first sounds of her breathing fill the car.
Mama?
Mama!
Not your mom, Isabella.
Slow and steady, the quiet rhythm so completely unlike her, so far removed from every impression anyone has of her. A few faint whimpers will occasionally come from her, but otherwise it's just us, the silence, and it's so utterly unexpected. Still a welcome break, of course. Peace and quiet is one thing I rarely get with her around. Yet, it's nowhere near comforting. It merely lends the air this strange clarity, every sound, every little sound, every single movement more palpable. And with it comes the unease. A jolt of surprise hits me, and it's almost comical if this were a different situation. In my haste, I accidentally dislodged my mobile from its seat on the dashboard when I swipe on the screen. Soon I'm scrambling blindly for it with my other hand while keeping a steady eye on the road ahead. A voice crackles from the loudspeakers before I can put it back. Although muffled heavily by the surface, I recognize the person on the other line from her chipper tone alone.
Hello? Miss Cooper?
Oh, you're still awake. Evening. I hope I didn't disturb you or anything. I know it's a bit late. Sorry about that. I just want to check on you and Isabella. That girl's still not answering her mobile. Were you able to meet up with her?
Yes. She's with me. We're on our way home.
Hello? What was that again? I can't hear you properly.
Sorry. Let me just fix this dumb phone.
My hand stops dead for a moment. I spare the device a brief glance, waiting. Seconds pass. Nothing happens, though. Frankly, I'm not sure what I'm expecting, but the lines of my mouth forms into a frown regardless.
Miss Cooper?
Yes, still here.
Did you say something?
Just that I didn't get the last part. What were you saying again?
No, I thought you... Never mind. Must be the signal acting up. Come again?
What?
Is everything all right over there?
Certainly. Is something wrong? What wouldn't? Okay, you used to be busy. If this is a good time, I can just call you back some,
I have to make a conscious effort not to panic right then and there. Although my tight hold on the steering wheel tells a different story altogether. Because she got killed and then it's in the news, she didn't think this was weird. Like she didn't, and why wouldn't why wouldn't the police talk to her after the murder? I guess we'll know. We'll see if those things happen. Because if not, then it would be kind of like weird.
Miss Cooper? Rose? Hey, Rose! Are you still there?
Only a burst of static answers me, and maybe this lapse is entirely because of exhaustion. It has been a long day, and I haven't fully recovered from last week's bout of flu, contrary to what I've been telling people. Though perhaps, had I paid closer attention to it, had I not been so occupied with other thoughts, I probably would have noticed earlier that it never came from my phone, but from somewhere right behind me. Oh God. Time slows to a crawl. Looking up is a mistake. The first thing I see is its face, a ghastly shade, every inch battered, bruised, and bloodied. Even in the darkness and the world passing by in the blur of lights outside, I can still make out the wounds. Blood oozes from it, little trails of crimson running down its face, glistening under what little light there is. But it is the gleam of its eyes that catches mine. The quiet plea, the anguish, and the desperation in them, more than its hideous features and the awful stench of gore now soaking the air. As I try as I might, I can't bring myself to look away. Even as its lips contort into a horrific smile. Even as a sharp, harsh noise pierces the air and the silence around us.
Car! Car! Eyes on the road!
Against everything I've been taught and I've constantly reminded myself, I close my eyes. It's a brief moment, a short, vivid second of muscle memory and instinct completely taking over. And if I didn't allow it, my hands didn't move, or my feet didn't hit the brakes in that exact second, I might have... Isabella and I might have... No. I shake the notion away before I lose myself in it. Right now, it's an ugly line of thought I refuse to venture into. Not when breathing is a struggle and every ounce of strength has been totally drained from my body. Most definitely not when Isabella's panicked voice beside me still rings in my ears. We are alive. We are safe. That's all that matters. But it is not her face that I look for when I finally open my eyes. All gone. I expected stains, little telling marks and creases on the covers to show me where it sat not a second ago. But whatever it is, it left not a single trace. And though courage is a hard thing to gather at this point, I take what little of it remains in me and turn towards the back seat. Even then, there's none. Or was there really something in there in the first place? With how empty it is, I'm beginning to doubt it. This stupid flu again.
I need a long rest after this.
My hands fall uselessly to my sides, dumb from how taut my grip on the wheel has gone, yet still trembling from the unexpected rush of adrenaline. Against my ears, my heart still pounds an erratic rhythm, and my breathing hasn't slowed down. But the world has already righted itself without waiting for me. And little by little, second after second, as I sit there here motionless, color begins to seep back around me. Along with it are the sounds and the voice, no longer the indistinct ringing it was earlier.
Becca! Becca! Are you okay? Answer me, will you? You're scaring me! You know what? I think we should just call a taxi since... Can you keep it down?
Strained, harsh, and completely unintentional, but with heat prickling at the back of my eyes and the mild throbbing at my temple, I could honestly do with a little silence for now.
Keep it down? We almost crashed, Becca!
I know what happened. It was a lapse. I'm sorry.
A lapse? You call that a lapse? Becca, I really don't want to end up a mangled mess on the side of the road, or a mangled mess anywhere. All I'm asking, if the time ever comes, which I hope isn't right now, is a peaceful death. Give that one to me at least. Not that I'm asking for it, but please.
Isabella. Belle, you're overreacting. If you're so worried, why don't you drive?
Don't have a license.
I keep telling you to get one, didn't I? For the past 5 years. Do you see why now?
I wasn't really expecting to stay here this long. I thought it'd just be for a year or two.
All of a sudden, a pensive mood comes over me. Isabella looks away then, while what's left of my little lecture never crosses the tip of my tongue. I don't allow it to. Because in each of those words she let loose earlier is a small truth. Her stay has been always meant to be something fleeting. Earn some good money, go home. It's what she'd tell herself during her first year here. Now, half a decade later, I'm not sure if she still believes that. Even I'm not sure if I still believe it. And if there's something in her reasons that has changed along the way, Even if I already have a hunch, it's one thing I'll never bother to ask. Because it's Ashton's delicious slimy dick that she's after. Those are hers to keep.
I'll be careful this time, I promise. Just please. Can we give this whole thing a rest for now?
She nods, and that is the end of it. We spend the rest of the trip back to Salem Well in silence. It's an odd name of a city, Salem Well. Is that a real place? There's a Salem well it's an actual well in Texas. It doesn't pop up immediately, so maybe not. So I guess that's fiction. That's a fake town. After watching Blue Fonse, Isabella tried making small talk with Rebecca, but the latter was in a prickly mood and was not interested. On their way home, Rebecca glimpsed something suspicious sitting at the back of their car. All thoughts of an overactive imagination playing tricks on a flu-addled mind and of smiles never meant for my eyes, abandoned if only for a brief moment. Salem Well Residences. Oh, it's the name of the apartment. It begins innocently enough. Tuesday morning arrives like any other day before it, bright and clear. Even though it comes with an extra helping of the unusual October weather, I appreciate being able to catch a glimpse of the clear skies lately. After going through a bout of sickness last week, it does something to lift the mood of what would otherwise be a dreary morning. And despite being mostly a creature of habit, I wind up waking earlier than usual because of it. Still, no earlier than Isabella, it appears. I've assumed she'll take a day or two off because of what happened to Miss Cooper, but that doesn't seem to be the case. The sound of the morning news drift from her unit when I walk past on the way to my mailbox. Chances are, around this hour, she's already dressed and ready to go. Probably just waiting for the next bus to arrive. I've tried following her example before, but I don't think I'll be repeating that.
Really? How can anyone be up before the sun is up?
It's a habit she got from home, she said, instilled in her by the kind of life she grew up in. Like clockwork, it's always at 4 a.m., either to help with the chores or prepare her little siblings for school. It surprised me the first time. She just didn't look like someone who could. In the end, I've simply passed it off as one of the many things anyone will have to get used to around her. Not that I'll ever fully understand. I'm my parents' only child. We aren't well off, but so far, I've lived a relatively easy life. I didn't have to think about bills or food for the next day, or paying for any siblings' tuition on top of my own, or supporting a sick father's medication. All I have to worry about were my grades, if I'd gained Mom and Dad's approval, or what we'd be having for dinner. When put next to hers, they all pale in comparison. They look less like problems and more like petty issues this way.
Petty issues?
But as unimportant as it all sounds, sometimes its ugly head rears at the most inappropriate moments. And sometimes they come through the mailbox in the form of a fancy-looking letter, pretty ribbons and all. Whoever sent this has spent silly money on the envelope alone. Verging on ridiculous, really. I can already imagine Isabella wrinkling her nose once she sees it. Then she'll complain about unnecessary expenses and rich people problems. I'm almost afraid to touch it myself. as if simply brushing a hand against its crisp surface will be enough to put a crease on it, and it'll be a terrible slight to the sender. But as extravagant as I find this, it isn't really the first time I've received one. Most of the time, it's not even for me, so who am I to complain? Either way, no look of surprise crosses my face once I flip the envelope over to see my parents' names written in a neat script.
Nothing new then.
Their years in the academe naturally brought with it various connections. Alistair and Alyssa Gales. People from other fields, art, science, business, politics, you name it. This one, though, gives off a much personal vibe. Letters like this usually come from old students, people who've grown fond of my parents, and they, in turn, treat like children of their own. I've only met a few of them. Most have moved on to become successful in their chosen careers, and little letters like this are their way of expressing gratitude. It's one thing Mom and Dad are proud of, rightfully so, and I'm happy for them. But there are times I wish they'll remember they have a daughter here, the real one. Not that it's of any importance now. It's not like they didn't raise me well and provide it for me. They did. I wouldn't be where I am now if it weren't for their hard work. And like a dutiful child, I do everything I can to give back. Even if it's a small thing, as letting them know they've got another mail waiting for them. So I guess because the parents used to live in this apartment, why would they be sending it here? I mean, these letters are supposed to be for our parents. The phone rings for a good minute before someone answers. Mum. Her voice as warm as I remember.
Becca?
Hi, Mum. How's the conference going?
Well enough. Until your dog sprained his ankle.
Oh no, is it bad?
I'm alright. In case anyone in this family cares to listen, I'm alright. Very much alive, darling.
And there you have it. He'll be up and walking in a few weeks, don't worry. We're going to have to extend our stay here until it heals, though. Is something the matter?
Nothing big. Just that this mail arrived for you this morning.
Oh, they're still living in the apartment. They're just not home because of a conference. A lie. Thankfully, she doesn't notice. What was she lying about? Just this mail arrived for you this morning. That's not a lie. Although, if I'm going to be honest, a small part of me yearns for her to do so and ask me about it. But I put down that idea almost as soon as it surfaces. What? Oh, for the mom to notice that something's wrong. I shouldn't make them fret. They're busy.
What does it say?
Raise your glasses, give cheers to the good times, blah blah.
Becca manners. That isn't how I taught you to read.
Sorry. You are cordially... it's an invitation, Mum, for a housewarming party. From, Hannah?
The name rings a bell, though at the moment I can't recall when or where I've heard of it recently. It must be nothing too important if I didn't bother committing it to memory. There are a lot of Hannahs in the world, so who knows?
Hannah.
She also wrote you a note, Mum. It says you used to be her private tutor at the Evans mansion, and that she misses you and would love to see you two again.
It makes my heart clench to read another openly say those words to them. The same ones I want to tell them. I want to see you too. It's been years since we've been together as a family, and if there's one thing that hasn't changed from childhood, is that Mum and Dad are still busy with their respective careers. Out of the country, all away on some meeting or a symposium, sometimes for months on end. It only grew more frequent with the years until I'm old enough to live on my own. Okay, so I'm still confused. Then I'm confused with their living arrangements. I'd like to think that's how I become independent at such an early age. They've always praised me for that. At times, I wish they didn't. So maybe, it's a mail forwarding situation. So then, they're out for a couple of months, and then all of their mails are forwarded to her. Okay.
Evans?
best
He remembers that specific detail about their marriage? Wow.
Yeah, she invited us to that too. Fonte de Medici. But we missed that one because you had to present your paper in Singapore.
We did send her a note after. Still a shame we couldn't attend, though. What is it about this time?
She sent another invite for a housewarming party. Becca, when is it?
This Friday, Mum.
Oh, that's too bad. We'd love to be there, but Da's not in a condition to go walking around. I guess we'd have to decline again. I really miss that girl.
I could go in your place.
I let it slip without thinking. Personally, I've never been fond of gatherings, regardless of how simple people make it seem. But if there's one thing I hate hearing, that disappointed note in Mum's voice always ranks first. Whether it's directed at me or some other thing doesn't matter.
Are you sure? Don't you have work this Friday?
The event will be in the evening, Mum. It shouldn't take anything away from my schedule. It's
Schedule.
all right. The invite's for 2 people. I can bring someone with me so things don't get boring.
I see. Maybe you can also invite Ashton?
Ashton, you do want his delicious slimy penis.
Mum, that's a sure no from him. He hates attending parties. But I'll see what I can do. If not, I can always bring Isabella with me. You know her. She won't say no if there's food involved.
Okay, if it's not going to be a big problem for you, I don't see why not. We owe you this one, darling.
No problem, Mum. I'll even say hi to Hana for you.
Please do. And let her know we'd love to see her once we're back in the city. Leave her a number or something.
I will.
Something.
But you know, the 2 of you would have become really good friends. Don't you remember? You met with her once. If my memory serves me right, you were 12 then?
This too, I can't recall. It's probably one of those meetings where we only talk a bit before going our ways. If she did leave an impression, I'm pretty sure I would have written about it somewhere, or at least recognized her name. As it is, the only few people I remember clearly from that time in my life is Ashton and Mandy. To some extent. Mum must have sensed my confusion because she laughs.
Don't push yourself too hard, darling. Really? It felt like having 2 daughters back then. Sometimes I wish they didn't send her away to boarding school. But, well, you know how often that goes with them. Still, try talking to her while you're there.
Oh, we'll see. I'll let you know what happens after.
I'm looking forward to it, darling. Take care of yourself.
Will do. You too, Mum. Bye. Tell Da to be careful next time.
She chuckles then. A hearty one, tender and always light on my ears. She may be a stern teacher, but this is the part of her I love the most. The sound of it still echoes even as our call comes to an abrupt end, bringing with it a memory from so many years ago. When life and responsibilities that accompany adulthood are things far from our minds, if given the chance, I'd love to go back to those. I don't dwell on it though, shaking it all away almost as soon as the memory forms a clear picture in my head. I've always wondered how Isabella can easily pretend everything's normal over a phone call. Then bounce back to her usual self immediately after. I've seen her do it plenty of times. For me, it just drains whatever energy I have. And with a whole day of teaching still ahead of me, I can't afford to look exhausted in front of my students. Even for a wee bit, it's never a good example to set. So, with another sigh, I put everything at the back of my mind and tread back to my room. The rest of my day waits. 15 minutes later, I'm heading back out, dressed for the day, my car keys in hand. Ordinarily, I don't stop for anything. There's never a need to. That's the beauty of this apartment complex. It's quiet and everyone knows. Everyone keeps to themselves. No useless platitudes in the morning. No need to wear a smile on your face, lest other people are nosy enough to ask. Today, however, the morning broadcast still plays from Isabella's room. My brisk pace slows to a stop, and a frown gradually forms in my face.
She hasn't left.
Of course, this isn't unusual. There are times when I've left earlier than she did, like last Friday before their open house. But those days are few and far between. It only happens in the direst circumstances, though the last part of that might be a bit of an exaggeration. However, with what's happened the last few days, maybe today is one. The death of a friend isn't something anyone can brush off, and for someone like Isabella... this is when she got worried and she started calling everybody. Isabella's the kind who gets attached to people easily. With Zachary, Ashton, and I, that has been the case. I can't imagine what she might be going through right now, especially when the woman was someone she owed a lot, despite their training being brief. I've given her the space last night in deference, but perhaps today might be the proper time to check on her.
Oh, whatever. I've still got time anyway.
With light steps, I move closer to her door, hand already poised to knock. Still, I don't do so until I hear her answer me.
Isabella? Belle? Are you in there?
No answer. After a second, I finally knock, lightly so I don't disturb her, in case she's sleeping and has merely left her telly running last night. Never mind how she never lets that happen. Ever. Waste of electricity and all.
I just want to check on you before I leave. Is that okay? Are you going to work today, Belle?
Still nothing.
I'm about to leave. If you want, I can drop you off.
Another round of knocking. Then I fished out a copy of her key from my bag and unlocking the door. She lent it years ago, after I complained about the mess and offered my help in cleaning up. I thought the gesture was completely unnecessary back then. After all, I could have always knocked. But she never did bother taking them from me, always returning it or turning away from the conversation whenever I insist. Why would you give your fucking key to anybody else? At one point, I've simply stopped trying to hand it back to her.
Isabella? I'm coming in, alright?
Coming in right when I'm fucking Ashton. Without waiting for her answer, I push the door open and step inside. Her unit's still a mess. Instant noodle cups on the table, a pile of clothes on one side, paper strewn about everywhere, and an unkempt bed. And the smell of Ashton's cum, among other things. This much is a given, will always be a given. I've been here, it's 7 o'clock. I've been here several times already and still wonder how she can function like a human being with a place like this state. Oh. You know, I think the problem with this game is like when they actually let you revisit like past scenes but through a different perspective, and then when they did that in like several characters ago, it was fine, but with Rebecca, that whole scene outside of the theater, you know, where all the conversations got repeated, that was that was a little too much. They should have actually attempted to make that whole part like a little shorter, you know, because they didn't have to repeat all of the conversations, and not that important. But I guess they're trying to make you understand her point of view, how jealous she is when it comes to Rebecca's and when it comes to her perceived relationship between Rebecca and Ash. So I've been here several times, still wonder how she can function like a human being with a place in this state. Okay, we're gonna stop here. Thanks for being here, Leon. You have a good night. I'll be back tomorrow. How many more characters? I think 2 more after this, huh? Ashton. And then Luke. It's funny how Luke is the last one, but I wonder if once you've gone to the to Luke, if we're gonna go back to these other characters. But anyway, talk to you later. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.